Hi again folks, how's all doing? Well, what have I got here? This is an old Wrenn City of Birmingham that was sent to me by Michael. Now he told me that this doesn't run well at all, but from what he told me it sounded to me like it was maybe a Duff armature. So he swapped the armature out with a good one from one of his other models that runs fine, and the local still wouldn't run properly. So a wee bit of a mystery here maybe. Let's turn on the power, see what happens. So yeah, that's not very well at all. It seems a bit reluctant to go. It's a bit stoppy-starty. Yeah, definitely something up. It was pulling about 500 milliamps when it was moving, but when it stops moving, it just goes back down to nothing. So it's not pulling anything when it's stationary. Bit of an odd one. Right, okay, we'll shove it into the shed and see if we can figure out what's going on. Righto then, let's get a look at this. A nice old Wrenn City of Birmingham in resplendent blue BR livery. I do like a blue locomotive, as you know, and old Wrenns are always nice things to work on. This is in exceptional condition. I'm just going to check the back-to-back in those tender wheels because it looks a bit out on those ones. 14.8. 13.5. Yeah, might have to squeeze those ones in a wee bit. But yeah, very good condition. The problem that Michael described, he did try running the locomotive without the motor to make sure the motion was okay, and he said it was fine. So he couldn't figure out why this won't run properly. I suspect from what Michael has described, and from what I saw in the layout there, the way it was behaving, I suspect a pickup issue or a broken wire or some, other sort of electrical issue, because when the locomotive stopped, it wasn't pulling any current. So yeah, I just suspect there's intermittent power getting to the motor. So let's open this up and see what's what. Gonna have to remove this pony truck to get into the rear body fixing screw. Takes the drawbar out as well. Right. There we go. Just going to take this front bogie off as well, and then I think we'll prop it up and see if it runs with power direct to the motor. Couple of paint pots. Right, does this run? It seems to. Let's see if this goes on the test track. Well, it seems to go okay. I think I'm going to put this on the layout like this and see how it runs. Okay, let's see what this does. It's full power. Interesting. That seemed to run okay. A bit stumbly, but then it's an old model with a bigger flange wheels. Right, okay, let's get to the bench and have a look. Right, let's get the motor out. Blimey, that's been put on tight. Come on, out you come. Well, that was tight. Brush spring out. Is the brush going to fall out? Yep. That's a bit sticky. Slacken that off. Is the ball bearing in there? Yes, it is. So that'll now come out. Yeah, we'll give the commutator a bit of a clean. It's not bad, but there's quite a bit of crap in the slots. Okay, I've screwed the body shell back onto the chassis. I just want to see if there's any interference, which there doesn't appear to be. So that rules that out. But it is very, very close. This rod is very, very close to the body there. It's almost touching it. And I just wondered if it was impeding it. But it doesn't appear to be. So, locomotive moves freely enough. Let's test the armature. Should get equal resistance readings between the poles. 0.3, 0.33. Yeah, the armature seems fine. Make sure there's no short between that and that. No, the armature seems fine. I think we'll give it a good clean up and some fresh lubrication. We'll reseat the bearings and we'll just have a wee fiddle with it. I mean, these models can be extremely temperamental. My old double Cardiff Castle went through a phase of running very intermittently, and I could never figure out why. And then suddenly it was fine. And back in the 70s, it stopped working altogether, and me and my dad couldn't figure out what was going on. It got stuck in the loft, and then I took it out about 3 years ago, after about 40 years, and it ran fine. So they're strange, these old double models and Wrenn models. Right, okay, let's get that cleaned up. We'll get the brushes cleaned up. I think there's still a brush in here actually. Get that out. The little ball bearing is still in the bottom bearing. And we'll get this all cleaned up. I think we'll put the brushes and springs into the sonic cleaner. So we'll stick that in as well. Anything else? No, that's fine. So the brushes and springs will get half down the sonic cleaner. Let's clean up the commutator. Give it a scoosh. Some of the old T-cut. Give the worm gear a clean as well. Get the Mackie brush onto that. Get a wee spot of molly grease into there. Put that bearing back in. Just put more molly grease in just to keep it there. Right, I'm going to put this in a sonic cleaner, get some lunch, and then we'll come back to this. Right, okay, brushes and springs all nice and clean. I think what we'll do is put this back together and see how it goes. But I haven't really been able to identify any obvious problem other than the brushes were really pretty dirty. One thing I haven't done is give this a bit of a scoosh out. It's important for these to be nice and clean. Put a spot of oil down there. And I'll pop this motor back in. Like that. Just set this bearing so there's a little bit of movement, but not too much. That should do it. Hold it in place, tighten up the lock nut. So that spins nice and freely. And turns the wheels. Put the brushes back in. Making sure the groove on the end of the brush is correct. That spring in. That one. Get this magnet on, and then we'll see if it goes. Righto, let's pop this on. That's running absolutely fine. Right, okay, I think we'll give this a wee remagnetize. 1, 2. Okay. I think before doing anything else, I'm going to give this a wee test on the layout like this. So this seems to run pretty much okay. I'm just going to take this out again because I want to put a bit of lubrication into the gears. The only real issue I could see with this was that the brushes were really dirty and the commutator needed a bit of a clean. There was a lot of gunk in the slots between the poles. That can be enough to cause very inconsistent running. So just giving it a clean, I think, has probably done the trick. But as I've said before, these old double models can be very, very temperamental. Let's get a little bit of gear oil on the drive gear. It's kind of what's good about them, actually, in a way. They are proper little machines, and they have their own little idiosyncrasies sometimes. They're not going to run as well as a modern locomotive. They're not going to be anywhere near as efficient. Let's get a wee bit of oil on all the linkages. Righty-ho. Wheel spacing, that's what I was going to have a look at. Because that can be the cause of them slowing down on corners. 14.3. That's wide for one of these old models. 14.2. Okay, I want to try and do something about the wheel spacing, but disassembling the valve gear and the rods and everything on these old Wrenn and double models is not fun. So I'm just going to see if I can push the wheels together just a little bit. What's that now? 14.1. These front ones a bit trickier. I've got a wee click there. 14.1. There we go, that's a lot better. To make sure that the shoulder on this screw sits through both the pony truck and that drawbar like that. Right. Now let's have a look at this tender, because I think the wheel spacing on this is a bit iffy as well. Yeah, 14.8. I noticed when I was putting this on the track, it just fitted on and no more. That's going to act like a brake. That's down at 13.6. It's probably okay. But no, that needs pushed together a tad. So I think what we'll do is we'll get a screwdriver in there and another screwdriver in here. I think these wheels are a bit loose. That's better. Right, keep an eye on those. Okay, let us go and stick this on the layout now and see how it performs. Okay then, let's bring it to the city of Birmingham. So there we are, that seems to be this old Wrenn city of Birmingham running as well as can be expected now. Yeah, the only real issue I could see there was that the brushes were a bit manky, as was the commutator. You know, if you clean a commutator and don't clean the brushes properly, then the commutator gets gunked up again pretty quick. You know, you really need to degrease and clean the brushes thoroughly, or ideally fit new ones with these old motors. They're very sensitive to the condition of the brushes, I find. As you can see there, this is flying around the track now and only pulling 250 milliamps or so, whereas before it was pulling about 500 milliamps. It takes a bit of juice to get going initially, and then you can back off the power. I kind of like that in a way. It feels a bit more real. It's like it's got a bit of a mind of its own, as these old Wrenn and double models tend to. But really, it's just the lack of torque at low speeds with these motors, even with the remagnetized magnet. I'd be very interested to try a rewound armature with more windings of a finer wire, or even a neodymium magnet, just to give it a bit more oomph. But I would definitely look into getting a new armature for this, I think, just to improve the torque. The wheel spacing was a tad wide on both the Locomotive and the tender, but I managed to bring the wheels in a bit to a more acceptable distance. If the back-to-back measurement is too wide, then the Locomotive might slow down on some corners and points, or even start stumbling on points, so it's worth checking the back-to-back measurement. I made a slight adjustment to the pickup, but otherwise this seems to run fine for one of these old models, and it certainly looks the part. I kind of wished I'd picked up the City of Glasgow I saw at Model Rail Scotland, but it wasn't in as good condition as this is. Alright, okay, I will get this packed up and sent back to Michael, and fingers crossed it runs okay for him. Next video is likely to be a donation, and a very nice one, from very far away. Okay folks, catch you later.